Welcome to It Matters Radio's spoken word broadcast with hosts Monica Brinkman and Kenneth Ween. It Matters Radio brings you the very best with a caring guest focused atmosphere, hot topics, and meaningful conversation. Let's join Ken and Monica as we bring you today's It Matters Radio.
Well, we got a couple great guests today. First off, we're going to have our dear friend Graham Sclater, who has come out with yet another great book. You know, Graham is such a prolific author, as well as being a music publisher and producer. He, of course, is in England, and our second guest is also from across the pond. Mia Lutsch is written a book, and we think folks should know about. So we're going to have an interview with her as well. She's up in Edinburgh, Scotland.
Oh, neighbors.
Yeah, certainly closer than we are to either of them. Cross Atlantic show today. Now, one of the things I realized today was I was looking at stuff on the internet and I saw this thing about trees and how trees in a forest communicate with one another. And it occurred to me that they network to protect each other, to help each other grow. And that there are certain trees that they call hub trees, mother trees, that are the trees that provide the internet kind of among the trees. And then it goes out through fibers that are provided by mushrooms that help grow the fibers. Anyway, it occurred to me that we were kind of like one of those trees we hear on It Matters Radio, that we're trying to provide communication to all the other trees out there in our forest, as
Yes,
it were.
we are all the time.
Yeah.
And Bucky's even joining us with that.
Yeah, and then I realized how much integrated we are when I saw another piece about Robert Smalls, the slave who escaped and helped fight in the Civil War.
Right.
And of course, we had talked about this book called Steering to Freedom by Patrick Gabbridge, and Patrick's book was about Robert Smalls. So I said, gee, isn't it wonderful that we're helping spreading the word that other people are trying to spread, that it's this kind of communication is going on all over the world. And I just would love it if our listeners would help get the word out for us. I don't want to tell you to be mushrooms, people, but be mushrooms. Help spread the fiber. Get word of It Matters Radio out to your friends and your network on Facebook and places like that, so that we can reach more people and also get more input of ideas and material from other people.
Yeah, we absolutely love to hear that. And yeah, we're here Sunday at 7 with Con. And in fact, could even be with us our weekend for the week. We introduced us. So it's going to be fun. Special Sunday.
Now, Monica, if it's okay with Punky, let's get on with Graham Sclater.
Sounds good.
We have one of our favorite guests back with us today.
Indeed.
And the reason Graham Sclater is back with us is that he's written yet another fabulous book. And it is called More Than a Woman.
Yes, I started reading this book. I'm done yet, but it's been very
Well,
good.
I finished it straight off. It's, of course, released by Graham's own publishing company, Tapitha Books. And it is a great, dark crime novel. It is a psychological thriller. And although most of it takes place in Great Britain, a bit of it takes place in South Korea and in the sex business, if you will, of Thailand.
Yes.
And really takes us into some wonderful, seamy places. So, Graham Sclater, thank you so much for joining us again on It Matters Radio.
That's great to be with you, you and Monica, certainly, yeah.
So, what inspired you to write a novel about such a strange and wonderfully dark noir topic?
Well, it's quite simple. About 12 years ago, I had kidney cancer. So I had my kidney out and Exeter in England. And she saw me sort of bobbing around, trying to walk around the Key area, which is the river where we live in Exeter. And she said, "Oh, God, what's happened to you?" I said, "Well, I've had kidney out." She said, "Oh, really?" She said, "Well, look, if you want a couple of free massages, come in." I said, "I'll have one today." So she gave me the first one, and she uses various oils, essential oils. So she said, "Well, what would you like?" And the oils do affect you in different ways. She said, "Well, what are you going to be doing after the massage?" I said, "Well, probably going back to lay in bed again for a few hours, and then a bit more walking and everything else." So I said, "I quite like eucalyptus." And she said, "Okay, well," she said, "you can have that. That's great." She said, "But, do you know you mustn't drink this stuff?" And I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, surely, eucalyptus is great. When you've got a cold, you inhale it, you rub it on your chest, rub it on your back." She said, "Yeah, but if you drink it, your lungs will literally flood. You will die."
Wow. I never knew that.
Yeah, and so that was where I got the idea from. And like all my novels, they take quite a long time to write, but I always had that in the back of my mind. So one day I was working on, I think, the third or fourth book, and I just came up with the idea. I thought, maybe I can use that. So maybe I can build a story around it.
Yeah.
And I know Ken writes novels, as you do as well, Monica.
Right.
So what you do, once that idea starts to grow, more and more sort of comes into it, it ferments, you get other ideas. I generally don't write anything down at that stage, but you start thinking about things, and gradually I thought, well, if I've got a character who's a nasty piece of work, I can actually he can have his massage, but he can be a swine, he can be a horrible guy, and it could be a way of maybe killing him off. And so that's where it came from, Ken. And once I got that, of course, then you as a writer, you've then got to come up with other sort of plots. You need to know the background of the character. You need to know, the protagonist in it and how you're going to link them in. And of course, Ali in this, she was a sports therapist. She worked in the basement of this large hotel cum office block in Canary Wharf in London, the capital of the world for finances, really. So she worked in the basement there, and of course this particular guy, the nemesis here, he was the one that she treated, but it all went wrong.
I would certainly say it all went wrong. But he gets his comeuppance.
He certainly does, yes.
Yeah. Now you start with your antagonist. I won't call him, because usually you start with the protagonist and work and create the antagonist, but you start with the antagonist, and we get to know him very well. And he is about as unlikable a blighter as I've ever run across in literature.
He's horrible. He's horrible.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, a piece of work. And but he has something, and I'm never quite sure what it is. Beside money, he has lots and lots of money
and success, which he sees as his way of getting anything he wants in life, in the world. Everything is obtainable to him. Which a lot of people like that in the world, with loads of cash, very successful financially, and they feel they can have what they want,
But he manages to attract women.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I have no great need to attract more women in my life. I have a wonderful wife, and I have Monica. What more do I need? But I wondered what his secret was. And you don't really reveal his secret, but
No. Well, he is a sporty guy. He's very fit. He looks good. He has money. He has success. He has, for the year, in particular in this novel, was £2 to £3 million, which is about $3 to $4 million. That's right. His bonus. On top of that, he's got a beautiful house on the coast, which is about 100 miles from London. Beautiful area, wonderful cars. He's got everything he wants, and everyone wants to be with him because, you know, it's just they can have what they like.
And he comes on at first very charming. You know, I think one of the things I really thought was fascinating about him as a character is this one scene where he's in his boss's office, and his boss is a real old school aristocrat kind of fellow.
Yeah.
And the boss leaves, and because all the boss cares about, and I think this is one of the things I really love about the book.
And as long as you know, things are away, then people can almost literally get away, and they're earning money for their shareholders and for their various people within the company or the hierarchy, or even above those. You know, so people will be allowed until they step out of line, and then of course they do get jumped on. But generally, because of the success, they're able to get away with it.
Well, and I think that that makes, of course, where his great weakness is his attraction. And so you have three protagonists. I'm going to put it that way. This wonderful novel with a woman in neck is a massage who works in the now replaced woman who met a band. Another is this incredibly beautiful woman whom the antagonist, well, let's give the antagonist a name. His name is Julian Hamilton Lufton.
Yeah.
And Julian meets this incredibly, he and his buddy, Simon.
Love the name.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He and his buddy Simon are at a bar or at a cafe, and she walks into his life.
Yeah, the lady in red.
Yeah. And then the third protagonist is this hardworking woman in the office who is kind of unique in that office because she's not particularly all that attractive. Now, Julian likes beautiful women, so he has arranged that the office should only hire beautiful women. But they have hired this one woman while Julian was off somewhere, and the reason they have hired her is she's actually competent. Not that the others aren't competent, but she is super competent.
Yeah.
And so those are the three protagonists against the one antagonist. And all I can tell you, folks, is how those three are connected and how those three work together make the body of a real psychological thriller.
Yeah. I mean, it is difficult, Ken, isn't it? Because I've done lots of interviews over the last couple of weeks. And, you know, this is, for me, is the most difficult novel to talk about because without giving things away, you know, and the title is the title. That is the key, More Than a Woman. But, you know, I'm doing my video tomorrow and, you know, it's going to be very difficult because they say, talk about your novel. Well, all I can talk about is the first few chapters.
Yes.
Because and the end.
Well, no, not really.
Well, you could say the blighter gets his.
No, he does, certainly does. But then I don't want to give that away either, really, because you assume that he's already gone, don't you?
Mm-hmm. But
yeah, it's the most difficult one I've had to talk about because you know it's got so many twists, and it would make a wonderful film. And everyone says that about their novels.
Oh yes, great.
This would make a great film.
Action packed, absolutely.
And the reason I did it as a novel was because if I'd have sent the script, I've written the film script, but if I'd have sent that out to people, then they could, of course, and I use the word nicked, stolen the idea. It's nothing is
right.
Copyright patented in this world, really, when you actually. But what I didn't want to do was get the script out to people, and all I've sent out is a synopsis, which doesn't cover the other antagonists or protagonists or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, you don't want to give away too much until they want to.
But now the novel is out in a few days, then you know they can do it, and it's out there in the public domain effectively. You know, yes. So
I love the fact that we're on It Matters Radio that we often have had discussions of books just before they came out. And for some, out of all our books that we discuss, for some reason, so hopefully that charm will continue with More Than a Woman.
Yes.
But I wanted to mention, you mentioned titles. And there's something about your chapter titles that strikes a chord.
Well, they are song titles. It's one of my, say, foibles, if you like, but apart from Hatred is the Key, all of my novels have a song title for the chapters.
Yes.
For each chapter, and that really, in my opinion, in fact it gives a clue to what's coming in that chapter, but only if you know the song. If you don't know the song, then of course it means absolutely nothing. And a lot of people have read my novels and they don't twig that they are song titles until I tell them. But it's something that I try to be a little original if I can be. I mean, I don't think there's very much around that is original these days, but I do try to pitch the chapters so that it does give a clue.
Okay. Now, I have to mention, I love that they don't tweak bit of British language as opposed to English, a common root. We got British and we got American.
What would you say over there then? Don't perceive, don't...
You don't see, don't catch. Catch.
Yeah.
But I love that. I'm going to have to remember that.
He's going to use it in a book now, you know.
Oh, yeah. But I think that one of the things, of course, that leads me to mention about you, in case people don't know, is that in addition to writing great books, Graham has a wonderful background in music as a performer, publisher, producer, etc. And he has a record company. The books and record company are the same name, Tapitha.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, that's where I started in the 60s, playing in a band in Germany. I didn't play with the Beatles because they're a few years older than me. Not much, but a few. Not so much older. But yeah, I started in Germany, of course, and after that I got married and came back to England, and of course I started songwriting. So that was really where the creativity started, and I had quite a bit of success. But one of my mistakes that my wife thinks is I should always have continued as a songwriter and not set up the publishing and record company in 1975. She always said that, you know, I was a great songwriter and I should have carried on that way rather than dealing with other people, i.e. bands, singers, songwriters who are a pain in the neck most of the time. So and that's where I started, and then say early 90s, late 90s actually, I wrote a film script. I had an option for a TV series with the BBC, which really excited me, and that got me going on the writing process. So I got every book from the library on writing scripts and writing books, and they all contradicted each other.
Isn't that something? Yes.
Yeah. So I got very confused. So I thought, well, I'm just going to do it my way. And I got software for the scripts, and I started writing. And again, I had reasonable success, got options for a couple of TV series and a film, but like all these things, it's such an extended process. You know, you think you're there, you're almost there, you can taste it, feel it. I even opened a bank account offshore to put some of the money in, but I ended up getting it back out again. But you do. But you know, I've been so near, so I know it's possible, and I think that, and the same with the music. We've had lots of success with film music and hits around the world. So when you've had that success, then I think it gives you the impetus to want to carry on. I think if I hadn't had success, then I wouldn't be carrying on. But from music, I naturally then moved into writing because the music business changed so much.
Yes.
Yeah, and with streaming, I mean, you just can't make money in music anymore. So I thought, well, why not spend more of my time writing, which I really enjoy. And here I am, and I'm working on 2 more novels at the moment. Plus, we're going to make a pilot of one of those novels, a 30-minute pilot. Which
very cool.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. So yeah, I think I've come full circle in a way that when I was songwriting, I did work on my own, writing songs. I had others in to record them, but I wrote the songs on my own, and now I'm writing my novels on my own. So I think really you do, life is a circle, and sometimes you get out of the circle and you go off on a tangent, but eventually, if it's meant to be, you end up back doing what, not exactly the same, but you end up doing what you should have done, and you've lost 20 or 30 years in the process, but you still get back there.
Yes.
Oh, yes. There's a force within you that demands it. I had a question about More Than a Woman, because now I know, of course, Ticket to Ride, I mean, you didn't have to write, and your Amsterdam book, the same thing. You didn't have to do as much research, although you did go over and spend time with the police in Amsterdam. And your historical novel, you went and spent time on the Dartmouth moors. And how did you research More Than a Woman?
Well, I used to go to Korea quite often. I had a lot of, well, I say businesses over there, really. I wouldn't assume, but he was our English. You do know Cliff Richard, but he was our English Elvis. He sort of copied Elvis a year or so after. And I was working with the Korean Cliff Richard, or Korean Elvis, but once removed. And I was also working on other projects over there. So I got used to Korea, and I got used to the people. I went over many times. I spent a lot of time. And what you need to do, I think, when you're writing is whether I wasn't writing then, but you do need to have that inside knowledge. Do you know what I mean? You need to just research. I've not been to Bangkok, but I spent a lot of time talking to people that have been over there. Often older gentlemen who tend to go over to Bangkok and come back with a Thai wife or girlfriend, about 40 years younger. But I did a lot of research that way. I spoke to the Thai Tourist Board, and they were very helpful with things. And also I worked with a transgender Australian person who has been incredibly helpful with makeup and all the other things that you need. So I couldn't write the novel until I'd got all that information. You can rough it out if you like. You can, rough it out. Right. It's there, that there. And what I do when I write, I actually talk to myself on the page. So I will type in bold letters. I need more here. This doesn't make sense. I need to sort this out. And of course that helps then. So I then do a bit more research, and then I'm able to fill in those spaces and get with my own talking,
Okay, so you've been to Korea and you've talked to people from Thailand, and that's why the story in so nice and clearly. And so once again, research pays off.
You've got to research, and I think what also happens as a writer, the more research you do, you then get more ideas. You're able to, the Korean food, there's a lot of detail on Korean food in there, isn't there? In the restaurant and cafes, but no, and Dutch people who run Korean bars and Thai bars and things. But I think as you do more research, if you can get it into your head, you're able then to work on other parts of the book to make it more realistic. It can, sometimes goes off on a little more of, not a tangent, but it just takes you a bit further away rather than a straight line. You almost go off piste for a while, You're able to get more information into it. It makes it more believable.
It makes it more believable, and it makes it more fun to read because you feel as a reader that you're learning something.
Yeah, well, that's what I try to do. It's very important that people who read my books maybe haven't been to Korea or to Thailand or know very much about the ladyboys and things, but or finance, but it's a world, and I like to introduce people to worlds that are new to me, and therefore they're new to them. If they know about them, as in Ticket to Ride, people who've read that, they say, well, it's exactly as it was. People who were there then, it's as it was, So that's what I try to achieve in anything I write, that it is actually believable and almost true, if you like.
I think you've done a nice job with this book of making it believable and, well, obviously not true. It's fiction, but.
I've read that. They put it down and think, whoa, yeah, I enjoyed it and I got it. And often people who don't read a lot, but less people reading now, that's helpful point. But I think my market of people who maybe only read a couple of books a year, but I want them to move with it. I don't want them to get bored after a few pages, because that's what I found with some novels that I've read. You know, you read a few pages and you think, well, do I want to spend 10 hours, 20 hours reading this?
Well, those are the novels that don't make it to It Matters Radio, because I have to read them before people are on. And
Yes.
sure, this one was a delight to read. It's
Sure,
called,
they
folks,
should.
What's a Woman Today, Graham Sclater. It's coming out next week, isn't it, Graham?
That's correct. Yeah, next week. I'm on the BBC actually on the day of publication, which is really good. I mean, it's really exciting, that is. And available from Tabitha Books in the UK and Europe, or Amazon worldwide.
Right. And so, folks, get over there. And while you're on that Amazon homepage, you can look for the other books by Graham, and do yourself a favor, buy more than one.
People are now, which is lovely, and that's the good thing of having, you know, this will be my sixth, having 6 novels. If people like it, like the style, they are buying the second and third, and that to me is satisfying. You know, I mean, writing a novel is fantastic, and having it out there. But when you've got half a dozen, I think it, like Monica, I have 2 or 3 now. So and yourself, Ken, quite a few. So I think when you have more, if people like it, then yeah, people will go through your back catalogue and buy them.
Right. And it's fun. It's fun writing them, and it's wonderful fun when you meet somebody who's read your books and says, hey, wow, I read that and I loved it.
And I'll edit your next one.
Yeah, I'm getting your next one. When's your next one coming out?
It'll be end of next year, I reckon. I've got a lot of work to do. I mean, I generally write during the winter because this year we've had quite a nice few weeks. That's our summer. In fact, there was a joke I read yesterday. They had sunshine in Scotland today. What a lovely summer.
So enjoy it while you can.
I like writing. I spend a lot of time thinking about it. I'm always gathering notes. I listen to people. I carry a notebook. I've got a notebook under my pillow. I often can't read it when I get up in the morning because I write in the dark and it's a bit of a blur. But yeah, I write and think about it all the time. But I need time for it to write. I can't just sit down and write a novel because all my books are different. If I had a character that I wanted to write about and to continue to write about, like Lee Child with Jack Reacher, or Ian Rankin with Rebus over here up in Scotland, then in some ways it's easier because you've got your character and you know him and you know his work.
Yeah, your backstory is there.
Yeah, and you've got it there, so you can always infill things and everything else. But because of mine are different, I've got to literally start from scratch every time. But I don't think that's a bad thing. It just takes longer, that's all.
Mm-hmm. Now, one question here. You mentioned that your wife used to say that you should have kept on writing songs. Yes. So does she approve of your writing novels?
Yes, she loves it. It's great. She supports me. I mean, we've been married 48 years. She hasn't read any of my novels.
Really?
I know. Why is the relatives are like that?
My daughters haven't read them.
I know.
546. They don't want to know. But the thing is that what she does is she actually, because she's a shorthand typist, she was the top girl in Pitman's in London before I married her, and her shorthand, I mean, she'll write notes all over the house in shorthand and type. She can talk to you and type with that touch type, you know. Mm-hmm. But what she looks for is she goes through it and she just knows where to go. She can say it's wrong. That should be that space wrong. This is wrong. That's wrong. She likes to put an extra space after each sentence, which people don't do now. But no, she is. She's a fanatic. She flicks through the books, but she doesn't read them. She well, the bit she's read, she thinks my mind is warped, as you said at the beginning, and she's quite surprised that what I write. I don't swear, you see, so she's quite surprised that I do put language in there. But no, she's able to look at a page and she'll just say it doesn't look right, and that's wrong, and this is wrong. So she and spelling, because when you use a thesaurus, quite often in England, it'll put the American spelling in. It will take an L out of, I think, the words like traveller, maybe. I don't know if that is, it's 2 L's over there, but it will take collateral and things. It will take the second L out, or second R, or put a Z instead of an S. So I have to be very careful, and she will always find those.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, she loves me writing. I mean, she's pleased I'm still around, and yeah, and the next book, which is going to be Buskers or Street Life, she thinks I've written a TV series for that, and she thinks that's the best thing I've written. So it'll be interesting to see what the novel comes out like.
I'm looking forward to reading that one because that's a topic that I am fascinated by. We have not so much here in Phoenix where I live, but up in Flagstaff, we have a lot of buskers on the street. For those who don't know the term, those are the people who are singing and entertaining and making a living by being on the street, playing their guitars or whatever. And in season up in Flagstaff, that's quite common. And I find them just such fascinating people.
Well, they've all got stories, and in mine, I think I've got 6 characters. He, a Marquis, his parents were ambassadors in Jamaica. So I've been to Jamaica quite a few times. So he's got dreadlocks, but he's white. So many characters, but they're wonderful characters, you know. So I've got all that in my head, and I've got the scripts I've written. So I've now got to write the novel for them. So, yeah.
Can't wait for that one. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to reading that.
How many have you ever heard of like that? It's unique.
What, novels about buskers?
Yeah, I haven't read many.
I don't. Occasionally, you'll get a street beggar or somebody like that, but no, there are novels
Nothing.
about them. I can't offhand now. But if you go back, I believe, for example, Dickens had some buskers in at least one of his works.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, street entertainers, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
we're in I think in Shakespeare, in some of his plays as well. You know?
Yes, Shakespeare did too.
Got musicians who will entertain during the piece. But no, I've been out on the road and I play the accordion. I've been out on the streets and working it out. And these people are incredible. They've all got fantastic stories, and my characters are very, very good. And no, I think you'll like it, and you'll like to edit that one, Ken. I'm sure.
Okay. Well, that's a standing. Folks, you wouldn't have heard this because it went on before, but I told Graham that I would love to try and help edit his next book, and that I would love to have Tapitha Books, which is a very fine company in England, come out with an edition of one of my books.
So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I think that'd be great fun to try. I'd love, as we were talking before, George Bernard Shaw once said, "English is the language that divides two countries."
Same language, but divide 2 countries.
And I'm hoping that maybe we can bring some togetherness. And certainly, that's one of the things It Matters Radio does, because we have so many wonderful guests from across the pond, as it were. And there, as you have said before, Monica, some of our most talented and gifted of our guests, including Graham, of course, and some wonderful, wonderful other writers and musicians. And the only problem I have with our guests from across the ocean is that we don't get to meet them in person very often.
I know.
So when are you going to come over here to the States, Greg?
Well, you may think that I'm a little bit silly what I'm going to tell you now, but I've always said, until I'm there for a reason, not a holiday, vacation, not a holiday.
Okay.
It would be to either sign a deal for a film or connected with music.
Okay.
Because why I say that is when I used to go out to Korea, I was there on business, and people show you the real place. If you go to a country as a tourist, you don't see the real country. You're in a hotel, you may go to a restaurant next door or go for a little walk, you do all the tourist things, but you don't actually go to places that really most tourists don't see. So I've always said, if I come to America, it will be as a guest if you like, but I don't mean it as someone paying for me to come over or whatever, but
I understand.
that Monica could, and yourself, different parts of America, but you could take me out, you could take me to where you go to your local bar to meet with friends, the local food, rather than going to a place where you have burgers. You know what I mean? And that's the reason. So it's not blasé, it's not being big-headed or anything else. It's just that if I came over, I'd want to see the real thing rather than just the tourist parts, go to Vegas or Disney World or whatever,
You don't need all the tinsel.
Well, we'll have to get you to go to Rolla, Missouri, where you can see the real America, and you'll go screaming back across. My God!
Well, I want to meet David Cooler and his family in South Carolina in Bamberg, because they are real, what they call rednecks, aren't they? And
Yeah.
I would love to go over there and go, hunting as such, but certainly go fishing and just see what the real world is like, get in his car and drive, or his tractor or whatever, and just feel the real thing. As people that come here from relatives and people who come to Exeter or England, I take them around and they see places they wouldn't see if they just arrived as tourists.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Yeah, because that's the real country there. That's the real state, or town.
Course, you understand, Monica, he's setting us up, because then he's going to come over here and it'll be research for one of the books down the line. And you and I will be characters. Well, we already are characters. What the heck?
I know. But I don't actually base characters on real people. I come up with them on my own, but on the wall you can't see it. But I'll show you this. I'll just take it down. This is that is my page of my characters for More Than a Woman.
Okay.
Those are my characters. So there is the detective.
Yeah.
There is Izzy. There is the police sergeant, the Indian sergeant.
Yes.
There is Robbie. There is Julian. There is Sandra. And there is Marjorie. And on the back, there's Sir Ivor, which is David Suchet, and Poirot with the moustache. So those are my characters. So I always pull out characters from magazines or papers who could be film stars, they could be people you don't know, I don't know, but they look right.
They look like your characters.
Yeah. When I'm writing my dialogue, I'm then able to, I can see them. They're on the wall. I can see them, and that's how I do it.
And it helps because, of course, when you look at and you're giving the dialogue, you can look at the that person doing. So you can get like this. Yes, I noticed you use that. Yeah.
That's a wonderful way to do it.
Of course, Monica, if you're going to start writing ghosts, it's going to be very difficult to get.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Blank page.
Blank page. I can do those quite well.
So, or a page on which we've written one or two.
Yes.
But folks, this book, notice how I segued right back into another plug, Graham. This book has 245 well-written pages, and it's called More Than a Woman. It's by Graham Sclater. It's from Tabitha Books, and it is a good read if you like crime, psychological novel, and just wonderful noir writing.
Yes.
I highly recommend to you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I'll buy it.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Graham. It's really been, and I love the fact that now when we have you on, you don't have to join us in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that's great.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
As the Beatles would say, right?
It's a hard day.
Graham, take care, and gosh, absolutely. Now I can't wait for your next book, so you have to let us know. We have that ready.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Stay well, my friend.
Bye.
Bye. Today, I am delighted to bring to the attention of our listeners a new author, somebody I doubt they've heard of, but one that I think they're going to want to know about. Her name is Mia Lutsch. She is originally from South Africa, but now lives in Edinburgh, Scotland. And Mia is very interested in shamanism and mythology, but she also has studied at university. She has studied psychology and classical literature. So she has a very nice foundation from which she has written In Search of the Golden City, a delightful book that I am sure that our audience will find meaningful. And with that introduction, Mia, welcome to It Matters Radio.
Yes, Mia, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So, Mia, this is the story of Akeem. Why don't you tell us a little about Akeem?
Okay, so he is a kind of leader figure and very much in touch with the spiritual realm, and he often gets a dreamlike way of relating to the world. He's very gifted, and because of that he's employed in the service of the king. And things become challenging when he falls in love with the princess, because for political reasons the king wants her to get married to someone else. Because there's a lot of political tension, they are in danger and they want to flee to a place where they have freedom to love and just be themselves and be happy about that. So they flee to this place called the Golden City. It's a place of legend, so they have absolutely no direction, they don't know how to get there, and they just go into the unknown. The only promise that they have is that those who really want to reach this place will find it.
So this is an adventure story, but it's an adventure story with meaning, with mythological kind of meaning to it. And the Golden City, that's such a wonderful theme throughout history. Of course, the Europeans went looking for the Golden City in many places. They went looking for the El Dorado, specifically the Golden City, but also the myth of the Fountain of Youth. And then, of course, there were people who went looking for the Amazons. We just had a wonderful show about a Baroque opera in which they were looking for the land of the Amazon. And then in reality, kind of thing, looking for a way to the Orient with all of the wonderful spices and all these journeys of discovery. You're quite into the mythological.
Yes, I don't know all the myths, but I'm specifically interested actually in the foundation myth. So after I finished classics, that's your in touch again with, do you know that myth?
Go and tell us.
Okay, so it started with an ancient author, Lutsch, and he wrote about the Golden Age as a myth. So it's a kind of full myth. So in the beginning there was a golden age, everything was basically just perfect. It was a kind of utopia, and then there was the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, the Age of Heroes, and now we live in the Iron Age. A few ancient authors used the myth in the race. And the idea was, we live in the Iron Age and people search for gold, and they fight all the time. So they search for it, but they don't get it, and because of that, it's the Iron Age. And in the Golden Age, there was no kind of fighting to find gold. So that's really interesting. The myth of Eden is because of the way that it's been used for religious purposes, but there are parallels. And ultimately it's about this kind of paradise, fall from paradise, or the problems of the world that we live in and trying to understand.
So how does he go about finding the Golden City?
Well, that is a big challenge because they don't know how to get there. So because he's very much in touch with the spiritual realm, he's motivated by purpose. he asks for guidance and he follows the signs. But there's a point, and that is the interesting thing I discovered after writing it, was a mythologist, Joseph Campbell, wrote about the hero journey, a kind of theme that re-emerges in different myths. And what he said was there is a threshold where the hero goes from the known world into the unknown world. So I wrote about this threshold, and there is a guardian of the threshold, and I have absolutely no idea if this was already a concept identified by someone else. And I learned about it just because I met another author, and she wrote about the same thing. So when he goes, he crosses this border into the unknown, crosses the threshold. It's almost like he travels into his own mind. So the landscape becomes even more symbolic, it becomes more fluid, and it's almost like a journey into his own mind. And there he encounters all his challenges. Challenges are actually inside him, and he has to conquer those inner challenges in order to reach the Golden City. And whether or not he does that, I don't want to give everything away.
No, we don't want to give away any spoilers here. We want people to read the book and find out how he makes it and what the challenges of the mind are.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is a very interesting theme that we are always looking for something better, always looking to journey to someplace better. And in modern world, constantly do that dream, which is Great Britain's re-emergence. So I was wondering how you looked at some of that political within your understanding of mythology.
Okay, well, for me, my understanding of politics is very unconventional. So I think ultimately the way that we relate to politics is all about power, and from our perspective, we give away the power to a source outside of ourselves. And to me, that is a very psychological thing. So we keep voting for someone new to take charge, we keep hoping that something will be good, this will save us, that will save us. And I don't think anything, it doesn't matter the faith of the politician or of the government, I don't think anything will really change until we change something inside ourselves. So to me, politics is a kind of collective dream, I suppose. And we're not going to change that until we change the personal dream.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So in a sense, what you're saying is that the inner realm is more important than the outer realm.
Yes, but I think I'm not in favor of just living in the world all the time, because I think the inner realm has meaning if you bring that into the outer realm. So I think that is very important, but I think the outer realm, the world we build, is just a reflection of the inner realm. So if we're going to keep dreaming things, separating things, disconnecting ourselves from the reality that we believe that someone else is in charge, when actually the only reason why anyone has power is because everyone believes in it or because everyone gives them power. Until we solve that kind of contradiction within ourselves, I don't think that we will actually get any political satisfaction. So, and I suppose for that reason, I'm not interested in who's in charge at the moment, or whether it's democracy, or whether it's this or that. So I'm more interested in the living reality, our reality, and that things to me as well. I relate to that world better.
How we relate to each other.
Yes, definitely.
So you believe that there is ever going to be a golden city, or is going to be the thought of?
Well, I think there are two different ways of looking at it. So I think the way that we are going out together as humanity right now, it's not sustainable. So that has changed. Or we will destroy ourselves. So I don't think we really have too much of a choice. I think in terms of that's another thing to have to look at our ideal. So if we look at power and glory and wealth in the sense of food, gold, an external kind of wealth, just gathering possessions, if that is what we envision, and if we think that would make us happy, then I don't think we will ever get to the golden city. I think human beings anyone of the kind of we at the moment. So in teacher, my argument is that kind of intricate, a personal kind of aspect that we come from. What do you think?
What do I think? I think that if I had to lie in the Middle Ages, I would burn at the stake. I think that much of what you're saying is right on target. The only thing that I would add is that deep down inside, I'm something of a Manichaean. I believe that there is a dichotomy between the good energy and the evil energy, and that the world around us, the world of things, is more evil than good. So that we have to constantly be striving to connect to the good, which means, yes, living within the world exists, but also at the same time giving up that connection to focus on the inner and the spiritual.
Yes, yes.
Well said. Very well said, yes.
That is very well said. Yeah, that from that perspective, I agree that there is no utopia with dichotomy like this, and I think it's desirable either, because we're human and learn how to grow and align with our spiritual purpose. That's what I believe, and that wouldn't have been if we weren't human, we wouldn't have challenges.
And of course, as we connect with one another, hopefully what we're doing in being human, connecting with one another, we are bringing out that good and striving toward, but never reaching perfection.
Yeah.
And so strive on. And you are reminding us of that effort in your lovely book, In Search of the Golden City. Now, this is a fantasy novel.
Yes.
Yeah, an adventure novel. It is for what range? Obviously, adults will enjoy it, but how young do you think?
Well, I would say I don't think age is as important as just whether the person would be able to relate to it. I would say adults, say anyone older than 18 who thinks about things like purpose and like mythological stories, thinks about things, the stuff in life, and ask about some questions. So, yeah, I wouldn't say age is very particular to the book that I wrote, because it's kind of like a fable. So you have a king, you have a peasant figure. It's not very targeted to anything specific that we have in the world right now.
Okay. It also, this is a love story.
Yes.
And this is, okay, because when I talk about mythology, I like to distinguish mythology of love, lust. Because in particularly the Greek mythology, most of the tragedies of the world come because Zeus can't keep it in his pants. Or Venus gets some poor guy where he can keep it in his pants. Like the Trojan War is, a pathetic story. So when you pass those, this is a story about love. It's about true love. And that always reminds me, when I talk about the mythology of true love, it always reminds me of one of my favorite movies ever, which is The Princess Bride. Are you familiar with that movie?
Yes.
Oh, goodness. You must do yourself a favor, Mia, and get to watch The Princess Bride. It is a classic about true love.
Okay.
And folks, if you've seen the Princess Bride, you want to get yourself a copy of In Search of the Golden City, a very lovely story about love.
Yes.
There you go. You get that on Amazon, right?
Yes. Amazon and the publisher's website also Sclater Press. Yeah, Amazon.
Great.
Yeah, and I should mention, of course, folks, that Mia is published by All Things That Matter Press, which has published two of Monica's books and a few of my books. And we are always delighted to have It Matters Press authors join us here on It Matters Radio. All things that matter on It Matters.
Makes sense, doesn't it? It's like they belong. Well, gosh, Mia, it was so nice that you could drop in and join us today. I was listening the whole time. It was very fascinating to me, and a story like this to read. Yeah, I hope many people will go out and purchase your book and enjoy it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me here. It's great to talk to both of you again. Yeah, thanks a lot.
You take care, Mia.
Okay,
keep in touch with us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
What did you think today? Good show?
You know what? She was here in the beginning and now the end of the show, but she was actually sitting over there listening to the whole thing. She adores our guests, and I guess she figured that she didn't have to have her face in the camera the whole time. So you liked it, Punky? Yeah? Yeah, she liked it very much.
Yeah, I have a feeling that both Graham and Mia are people who would get along well with Punky.
I think
They're
so
both
too.
warm souls.
Yes, they are. And yeah, they're wonderful people. And I hope everyone who listened to the show tonight and listened to Graham and listened to Mia will go out and check their books out.
Oh.
Because that's why we have people on, so we can present them to you. Because we know many people love to read out there. Just like with our musical guests, we know many people like to listen to music.
And your book is